Fastlane.
Hi there and welcome to this tutorial for Fastlane Digital Audio School down in Montpellier, France, an Ableton certified training center. Today we're going to learn how to create a drum machine and a step-by-step sequencer in Ableton using only the native tools in Ableton. This will enable you to program to sequence drums or other sounds on stage using a generic controller such as the launch control here, or any controller that has RGB pads that can give us a visual feedback on the parameters. So to start with, we're going to need two MIDI tracks. They are normal classic MIDI tracks. One will be generating the sounds themselves and the other one will be generating the sequence, the triggers for these sounds. There's a third MIDI track here that I've programmed in advance to gain a bit of time on that tutorial, but you can ignore it for now. So let's now populate a drum rack in the first MIDI track here. So let's just drop a classic empty drum rack, and in there I'm going to drop some kick drums. As I said, you could use snares, sound effects, vocals, whatever you want to program on stage. So in this rack you don't have much to do. Make sure your sounds are properly cropped, make sure there's good level, homogeneous kind of levels between the sounds, so the sound doesn't jump when we switch from one sound to another. But that's about it. In the second MIDI track, you're going to need to load a MIDI effect rack, like so, and open the chain icon, create a new chain with the right click, and you're going to have to duplicate this 15 times to have 16 chains altogether. So let's do that. That's it. I should have 16 chains now. I'm now going to open the chain icon and the chain view here. Drop down to the last chain and grab the little blue guy here. Place that under the value 15. Select all the chains using Shift and right click to distribute the ranges equally. You can see now every chain occupies one MIDI value in that chain. Okay, now go and create a MIDI clip in that trigger channel and place one MIDI note in there, preferably a C1, and duplicate that clip 15 times. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's it. I should have 16 clips now. Now what we need to do is automate this little blue guy. That's the chain selector. We need to automate it so that each clip moves it to a new value. To do that, just select it once, just click on it, place it on 0, go over to the clip MIDI editor and open the envelopes here with this icon. Now for each clip you need to modify the position of the envelope so that each clip moves one value up. Oops, let's get rid of that. I can't see properly. Yeah, that's it. Go away. Yeah, see, it's quite fiddly. It takes a bit of time. So that's why I actually created a channel ready to go here, so we don't have to go through this process with you. So now if I switch from one clip to another, you'll see that the envelope is going up one value every time. Great. Next step, I select all the clips using Shift once again. See, all MIDI clips are selected. Open the launch options over here on the left hand side and make sure that each clip only plays for one semi-quiver, and ask them to go over to the next clip. So now when I trigger the first clip, all the clips are going to trigger each other's in series like this, and at the same time they're going to move the position of this MIDI selector over here. Great stuff. We're almost done. Now let's go over and set up the controller to set up our step-by-step sequencer. Now you need a controller that has RGB pads. I already said that, but you also need in the link MIDI tab to ensure that the track option on the output of the controller is enabled. That will enable your controller to give you a visual feedback. So when the parameter it controls is on, the light is on. When the parameter it controls is off, then the light turns itself off. Now we need to enter the MIDI map mode using the MIDI switch over here, and on the MIDI effect rack we're going to need to assign each of the chains to a different pad on our controller. So that's also quite fiddly. I'm going to try not to mess this up. Perfect. So as you can see now, I'm going to be able to control the mute switches using that controller. And when the mute switch is on, the controller stays on. When the mute switch is off, the controller goes off. That enables me to have a visual feedback and to know where I've programmed the sounds on the 16 different steps of my sequencer. Almost there, guys. Open the ins and outs of Live using that icon on the right hand side there, and ask this second channel to send its MIDI messages to the first channel using the MIDI 2 choosers. Enable that first MIDI channel to receive these informations, just activating the monitor in switch. Remove the rec, and that's it, we're almost done. Now when I trigger the first clip, see, this will follow the steps on my controller. See? Great, isn't it? Sweet. Few more things to make this even better. I need to basically choose what kick receives the information so I can change what sound is playing on my sequencer. To do so, under MIDI effect, grab a pitch effect and drop it just behind the MIDI effect rack. Now using the pitch value here, we're able to direct or redirect the MIDI messages properly, okay? That you could obviously map this to your controller, the pitch control, so you can basically choose what kick receives or what sound receives the information you're programming on your controller. This value could also be automated via clip envelopes and dummy clips in your track to precisely dictate what sound is being triggered for each of your tunes. That's it. So that's a very versatile system. You could obviously have many sequences for many different sounds in the same project. If your controller enables you to visualize different, sequences at once, for example, on a push, or if you use Lemur on an iPad, things like that. To do that, couldn't be simpler. Just quickly, I'll show you. You can duplicate the trigger track and rename it. So for instance, this one will be for my snares. I'll go and set up some snares in there. So to do that, I'll just place the drum rack inside an instrument rack. Command G. That's it. Now we have an instrument rack, and inside we have the kick drum rack. Just build another drum rack underneath here. Just drop it. Drop the sounds in there. Where are the sounds? Let's go some snares here. There you go. Perfect. Great. And in the ins and outs section here on the second MIDI track, now use the second chooser here to direct the messages to the snare rack. Gotta switch off the kicks, and now I should be able to program some snares, launch the series of clip. Well, okay, so not very well cropped, these snares, but there you go. Yeah, you get the idea. Now, if you wanted to have different control, obviously, on the snares and the kicks simultaneously, obviously, that's probably what you want to do. All you got to do is remap the mute switches on the snare track, on the snare trigger track, and remap that to a different set of RGB pads on your controller, and you'll have, different, controls over each of the sounds. It's going to be quite convenient, I reckon. That's it. So yeah, all you got to do is that. What else can I tell you? Oh yeah, if you wanted to have some swing onto that technique, let me show you. All you got to do is duplicate the whole of the clips here, all the 16 clips, okay? So you got a new series of 16 clips here. Then all you got to do is swing what notes you'd like to swing. So for example, this one, that one, I don't know, man. Just that one as well. Great, cool. And now let me just enable all 16 snares so you can actually hear properly what's going on. I'm going to drop the menu level down a bit. Oh yeah, I've completely deleted the thing. We're going to do that on the kick, sorry. Yeah, let me switch off the snares for now. And you can hear now the swing, right? Yes. So that's how you could have different feels for your different sequences. One more thing I'd advise as well is to actually map the first clip of each series of clips. So you can basically start your sequences whenever you need on stage. So for example, the straight sequence here, and now the swung one. Okay, so that's one more thing you could add. I mean, there's loads more we could add to this technique, to this system, but that would take ages, obviously, on a tutorial. Anyway, there you've got the basics down, and that's how you could expand onto this principle. Now, that technique wasn't developed by myself. It was given to me or passed on to me by Nick Ronen, who's a great breakcore artist from London and also a tutor at Point Blank School of Sound. Thanks, Nick, for this technique. I've been holding on to that technique for years now. I think it's about time everybody knows about it, Nick. So there you go. I made a tutorial. I hope you've enjoyed that tutorial. Obviously, that's the kind of things we study here at Fastlane in the performance course, but our courses are in French, so you just have to watch my tutorial, won't you? Bye, speak soon, and have a great summer.